So let's talk now about what you can do. The other book that I spent a significant amount is a book called The Resilience Breakthrough. And this fellow talks, and why this is connected to the brain, is that all of us have had crises or challenges in our lives, yet we are still here. We're resilient. We develop coping skills that have helped us cope with our daily lives. So this book talks, and Christian Moore was a young guy who had severe learning disabilities and ADHD. Yet he went to college. He got his master's in social worker, and he's one of the most famous speakers on resilience in the country. He turned his life around by using the power of no, his inabilities and his insecurities and all his inabilities as he describes them to become very successful. So that's what we hope that we're not only helping with that interdependence that we talked about, but we're hoping that we help our teenagers be successful by helping them develop resilient skills. And remember, we talked a little bit about relationships and your positive relationship with parents or positive relationships with your partner. That's what helps us develop those resilient skills. So I'd highly recommend this book. Both of these books talk a lot about what you can do. And in fact, his subtitle is 27 Tools for Turning Adversity into Action. Now think about that. Who doesn't want to become more resilient? So, very powerful book. So let's talk more specifically about, and we kind of pulled off a couple websites. Kaylee and I spent a little time. How are we doing as far as time? Good. Pulled off a couple things that you can do and from a couple websites. One is the Good to Know Colorado. If you go on the website, most of you are pretty computer literate, I would assume, or Speak Now Colorado. There are tips and we gave out handouts, I think, from Speak Now Colorado that talk about specific things that you can do on a daily basis with your teenagers, with your spouses and partners, but they all involve an open dialogue. They all involve being good listeners. They all involve being honest. They involve relationships or building strong relationships between parents and teens. So that regardless of whether or not you're talking about a preteen, an adolescent, or a young adult, it's about maintaining those relationships. And it isn't much harder than that. Although, as this woman talked about earlier with her teen, with all the emotions and the battling of the minds, it's very hard to remember that when we're trying to be helpful in terms of setting the tone and being open and honest. Siegel in his book talks about reflective conversation. So if I'm still battling with my 33-year-old adolescent. Oh, did I say that? When we battle about what she asked, what do you think I should do? And I say, well, what do you think you should do? How are you feeling? And it's hard for me to say that because I think that, we still have an interdependent relationship. This is my daughter I'm talking about. We still have a good relationship. The fact is she's asking for my advice is a good thing. But allowing myself to get beyond my own feelings, right? I feel like she should be doing this. But saying, so what do you think you ought to do? That's reflective conversation. So she, like when she was a little girl, still wants to be safe, secure, and soothed in many ways. She's keeping that relationship going. And when I'm playing with my 3-year-old grandson, I want the same thing for him. So keeping and maintaining that tone and open dialogue is critical to moving forward. So we wanted to share some ideas for you. Again, in terms of teens, the other thing that we wanted to mention is setting future goals. And I think Clint is still here. We're going to have him talk a little bit about iThrive in terms of how there are some things that are going on in our community.